All right, again, it's great to meet everyone. I'll take questions at the end, so we go through the presentation. So if you have anything you're thinking about as I talk, mention or anything, please feel free to jump in the chat. Again, I'll be monitoring the chat as we go. So if you have any questions or anything, please feel free to jump in and ask your questions. I'll be glad to answer those, but I'll take some time, excuse me, at the end to answer questions. All right, so today we're looking at just introduction to database administration, DBA fundamentals. That was the title of the promotion that we did. It's just the basics for anyone, and my objective is, whoever is listening to this is somebody who is, my assumption is you're, looking to get into a career in database administration, and so you're trying to understand what exactly it's about. You're trying to get a picture of exactly what it is that database administrators, database engineers, we do. So that is what I'm going to be getting into today. All right, so a little bit about myself, if we haven't met. My name's Nnamdi Iheanacho, and I have 12 years of experience practicing as a database engineer. I think it's more than that now, but I've been in tech for the last 18 years, just in different capacities. So I practice what I preach. I've been training for the last going on 8 years. Those numbers are, I need to have a conversation with somebody. And I've, in the last, few years, I've worked with that many students and helped them transition into careers in database administration on our platform, and Star Technologies, which I'll talk about a little bit more as we go down the road. We're an accredited institution here in the state of Georgia, so it's not just an Nnamdi movement. We're actually a school accountable to the state. So that's our platform for empowering our folks to go and be successful in their careers in IT. So my question is, are you ready to launch a career in information technology? Are you ready to upskill and transition into tech, achieve financial security, and escape the low-income trap? Right? That's who this workshop is for. If any of this is the objective, then this is for you. The things that we'll talk about will benefit you immensely. Again, please, if you have any questions, use the chat. I'll be checking it out as we go. Now, why database administration? Why? Let's start from there. Why database administration? It's one of those very in-demand IT career paths. Somehow not as popular as you'll hear a lot about cybersecurity, you hear a lot about you hear a lot about the newer data analysis, and there are some that have like all of the bells and whistles because of, I guess it's their time, but at the core of every industry is data. At the core of every organization is data, and I'm going to get into it. But what we do is so essential to every business at every stage, right? Even for the smallest of businesses, they need some level of data administration, right? And that is why what we do is so critical, right? Our skill set is so in demand, right? And what that means is the work we do is meaningful, it's fulfilling. A lot of times people go to work, we have jobs, but we don't necessarily know how what we do impacts work, right? That's something we don't have to worry about as a database administrator, because the data is the business, regardless of what industry that is. You can earn, in six figures. If you go to Department of Labor, US Bureau of Labor Statistics website, actually, it's public information, so this is not me throwing out a random number from somewhere. You get that work-life balance, get to work from home. It's one of those, again, even before the pandemic, database engineers, database administrators got to work from home a lot. It was one of those career paths where you could have multiple jobs and put it off successfully, because we can really do what we do from anywhere. Even when you work in the office, you're not necessarily supporting data centers or servers that are physically located in the building. And so we are technically always remote, and so it was an easy transition for us when that time came to move to work from home. If you're somebody looking for a career path where you're going to stay in something for a long time, have a long, successful career, then it is one of those places where you can, because it's not one of those fad where you just learn a skill or learn a software, and then as the software evolves or phases out and there's something new, opportunities become limited. This is not one of those fields, right? It's data is never going out of style. How we manage data might change. The tools might be different, But at the core of what we do, database administration is always going to be there. And you get to live out your career dreams. And so if that's your goal, then that's why database administration. Need help to get work from home DBA work. Are you already a DBA? And we'll talk about that at the end, but let me know in the chat if you're already a database administrator, or you're looking to get it. All right, so my goal today is to provide a detailed overview of database administration. We talked about it a little bit, show you the opportunities within this space, and take a deep dive into the roles and responsibilities, what we do, what the day in the life feels like. Congratulations, that's awesome, Fad. So let's get into the introduction to database administration. What's a database? Um, What's a database? When you think about the word database, there's really two aspects of it. There is data and then there's base. A base is like a location where something is stored or people gather. And so for a database is anywhere you store information. Think of it like that, right? It's think of like a massive library, right? It's holding this wealth of information. Like every book represents a piece of data, right? The bookshelves is organizing all of that, all the books, and that's your data being organized. That's exactly what a database is. It's an electronic library, right, for storing tons of information. Every day we generate tons of data on a regular basis, right? As we're doing this right now, I am recording this class. What am I doing? I am creating some kind of content that needs to be stored somewhere. So I'm streaming to YouTube. This recording is going to live on a YouTube server somewhere in a database, in a data center, right? And so it's critical to understand that every day data is being generated in there trillions of terabytes, like on a daily basis, right? And all of this data needs to have a home, needs to have a place where it's stored, where it's easy to access promptly, right? It's not just about gathering information, but it's gathering and storing it in an organized form where it's easy to get to, right? When you go into your bank account, for example, to check your balance, it's a seamless experience because the data is organized, right? If you're trying to find something or transaction from 3 months ago, in your bank statement, in your bank, it's easy to navigate to that. You can sort by month, you can go to a specific month. All of that is organized in a framework, in a specific way to make it easy to access information. That's the power of a database. So it's about storing information, but it's also organizing it, organizing this large amounts of data to where it's easy to access, it's available to the right people at the right time. Just an organized way to electronically store information is a database. Now, databases you can look at, I just said right earlier that it's anywhere you store information is a database. So we interact with databases all the time. We use databases every day. Think about your computer. How much information do you have on your computer right now? How much information is on your phone right now? How many contacts do you have, right, on your phone? How much data is stored on your phone? Some of us have used up we're at like the 20 terabytes of space with iPhone or whatever the highest is, right? Because you're constantly generating new data. You're taking pictures, you're meeting new people, and you're setting contacts, you're making new connections. That's the power of a database, right? It's about storing information and then being able to access that information. Think about our minds, our brains, how much information, how much volume of data is stored in here. Some of us can go near 40 years back and remember things, right? It's all things that have events that have happened and is written into this organized, database. And someone can say, hey, yeah, that was in 1920. That's when that happened. I was there. I wasn't there in 1920. But you see where I'm going, right? So we are all database administrators of sorts. We all get to manage data in some capacity on a regular basis because, again, it's a very data-driven world we live in. We make decisions based on data. You're on this call on this beautiful Friday afternoon. It's a data-driven decision, right? You've done your analysis. You feel like I need to get more information about this path I'm considering, right? Mr. Fad, I want to get a remote job, and so you've made that data-driven decision to sit through this. It's not a random decision. You analyze, you have option of things to do. But then you looked at the data and say, you know what? listening to Namdi is more important than anything else I'll do. All right. So why are databases important? I just talked about the data deluge, right? We generate tons of data, terabytes of data on a regular day basis. Um, Organizations always collect this massive amounts of data. Um, every time you go online, I mean, I'm sure we've experienced it. In fact, maybe you can speak to this as well since you're already in the field. But it's you go online. Let's say you go on Google right now. You do a search. You search for shoes. I want to buy shoes. My birthday is next week, so I want to treat myself. I want to buy a new pair of shoes myself. What tends to happen after I do that search? I go on Amazon, I go maybe I research on Google, and I look for shoes, nice shoes in Atlanta. What will happen is in my Gmail, I'm going to start seeing promotion from shoe sellers, male shoes in Atlanta or something. There's always I'll start receiving promotions based on my search preferences. What triggered all the shoe companies to know that I'm looking for shoes? Have you ever wondered that? What triggers, like you search for bags online or you search for something, or maybe you're looking to buy a house and suddenly you start seeing random commercials on from Realtor.com and Zillow.com showing you this house in the area. This is a good fit. People around you bought houses like this. And you start seeing all of that. How is that happening? That's because everything we're doing, we're generating data with every interaction we have online, every interaction we have with ourselves, data is being generated. I am feeding you new information right now that's going into your brain and living in there, right? It's the same thing when every time we are doing stuff online, our behavior is being tracked. Right now, you get this notification on your iPhone where they say, ask the app not to track, right? I'm sure all of us have seen that. Before, and that's because it's legally mandated now. Before, they just tracked our behavior, and that data was available for sale for people to sell stuff to us or advertise stuff to us. It's the same thing. When you go online and you get these cookies, this website uses cookies. A cookie is just a tracking, it's a tracker for your behavior online. And so that's how they're able to, all of the information, all of your behavior is being captured using those cookies and it's saved in a data warehouse somewhere. And now I know Kai is shopping for bags. And so I'm going to show her bags every day until she buys one, right? It's it's a huge amount of data that's available to us. Um, regularly, regularly. Like I'm talking about, we have access. It's a data deluge right now, and organizations are collecting data. It's an election year, right? And so you're seeing all of this polls that they are using to, okay, this campaign is not going to this state because they are likely not going to be winning, or they lean in this direction. And so they're using all of this information from polls, from behaviors over time to study how people are going to vote or likely going to vote. And so that's why somebody can come on CNN and declare boldly, even before the election, that, hey, this guy's going to lose in this place. Not because they don't know what the people will do, but there's a pattern, there's data available to them that they're using to study patterns, right? And all of this data that businesses use, it data that's some companies will not advertise to certain places or demographics because they know this is not our target. How are they making that call? Data, right? So there's a lot of data available to organizations right now, and businesses use data to gain insights. They use that to, operate efficiently. The data needs a home, and that's a database. So a database is where it's there to help us store data, collect massive amounts of data. Have database, you have data warehouses. It's still a data warehouse is just a bigger database. Let me put it that way, in a very fundamental way. Databases help us manage, analyze, and secure data, right? It needs to be organized and stored somewhere so we can do our analysis on it. That's why databases are important. Your data, all of this data being generated regularly needs to have a home where it stays. So, who are we, right? You're listening to me. That means you have interests in this, in being a database administrator. Who is a database administrator? That's me, that's you, that's us, right? A database administrator is, I'll call them the guardians of the data. We are the gate. I had a boss who said we are the gatekeepers. He said we're the gatekeepers of the data, within an organization, right? That means we control who has access, what level of access they have, right? Think about it. You have Bank of America and I have Bank of America, but when I sign into my Bank of America application, I only see my own account information. I don't see yours. Parameters have been put in place to ensure that there's a restriction on what I have access to, right? Within the same building, people have different levels of access. So when we talk about permissions and access, people think about unauthorized access, think about, hackers and malicious, attempts at compromising data or compromising your information or security. And that's important. But when we talk about security at the database level, a lot of times is, how much access do you need to have to do your job, right? If Mr. Paul is a database administrator or he works in reporting, he doesn't need the same level of access as the person working, who is a developer. And so my job as a database administrator is to ensure that you have the level of access you need to the information you need to have access to. Not ultimate, you don't have ultimate access. You don't have access to everything. We're very careful with who has access to what. It's about security. It's about making sure that we can efficiently have access to information, right? We can present data in an efficient and simple to understand way. That's a key role of a database administrator. It's we're about managing users who has access to what. Users is how a user is pretty much the entity you use to access information. So you have your login, your account, all of those things. We manage user access, and again, there's a whole conversation around what we do. Right, I've done workshops where I just talk about the roles and responsibilities of the database administrator. But at a very high level, we we're the database managers. We're responsible for managing the data for business critical information, making sure the right people have access to the right information, making sure data is safe in case of an outage or in case of disaster. We put measures in place to ensure that we can come back from a disaster in case anything happens. Right? We are the ones who are, if people need access to generate reports, we're the first point of call. Right? People need to do some testing, we're the first point of call. Right? We want to know whether you know, this application is going to work well with our information. The database administrators are the first point of contact. So what we do is very critical. Again, we are the guardians, we are gatekeepers of the data, right? And we use what we call database management systems, database platforms to do our jobs, right? So a database administrator is proficient in one of these database management software. There is no general DBA, right? So you are a SQL Server DBA, you're an Oracle DBA, you're an MySQL DBA. You can be proficient in multiple platforms, but you're not a generalist.
Okay. Oh, okay. Okay.
Right? You can be proficient in multiple platforms, but there's no, you know how doctors have general practice, right? Um, Eventually you want to specialize, that you can have some foundational information across the board relevant to just managing data. But to be a database administrator, you are using one of these platforms. So you might be familiar with any of the names on the screen: Oracle, Microsoft SQL, Postgres, um, any of these platforms, right? You might proficient, you might be informed about them. You have to be the first step in becoming a DBA is becoming proficient in one of these tools. It is your skill, your proficiency in any of the software. That is what you're going to use to basically help businesses with managing their data, right? You're basically an expert at one of these platforms, and you're using your expertise to help organizations with administering their information, managing who has access to what, all of the things I talked about in the previous slide, right? You're using your skills in MySQL to help businesses with their mission critical or business critical data. So what are some essential skills you need to be successful as a database administrator? How to contact me. I'll share the link to connect with myself after towards the end. And I think I think I saw Joanna join the call. Joanna, if you're here, you can share. Yeah, Joanna, if you're here, you can share the link. I'll book a call link on the chat, please. All right, so some essential skills needed to be successful as a DBA. There are technical skills you need. And I just call it the DBA toolkit. There are so many skills that, there are in terms of skills, again, proficiency in one of these database platforms is required. I just talked about it, right? My area of expertise is Microsoft SQL Server. The good thing about SQL is there's Microsoft SQL and then there's just SQL. SQL is a standard. Anybody can learn SQL if you want to today, as we finish this meeting. If this is a career path you're interested in, go start learning SQL, right? Go learn SQL as a standard, start learning the fundamentals of SQL. It's a good place to start from. It helps you in all data realms, whether database administration, reporting, data analysis. Just go start SQL. That is my free, in addition to the free value, the extra free stuff I'm giving you is go start learning SQL. You can start doing that online. Go to W3 schools today and just start playing around. But that's where it starts from. The reason I say SQL is because SQL is not just a platform for Microsoft. SQL is actually a standard. SQL stands for Structured Query Language, right? It's a standard that most of the languages I mentioned in the previous slide, let me go back to that slide. So most of these guys have SQL built into it. They have a version of, they all use their own version of SQL in some way, right? SQL is just a language that the data understands. Okay, so we're interacting with the data, we are protecting the data, we speak to the data using SQL. Okay, so SQL is the, how we have English as a global language, but then in English, for African people, we have Pidgin English, we have Broken English, we have, the folks from the Caribbeans have their own version of, Patois, and there's different, it's still English, but it's been modified to certain demographics. It's the same for SQL. SQL is the universal language, and then all of this businesses decide, or these platforms modify it to suit their own, infrastructure that they have. So the first, your technical skills are always a good place to start. Database platforms, data modeling, all of that good stuff. These are some essential skills to have. You have to be proficient on the technical side, right? A lot of times I see promotions online all the time and people talk about, let me show you how you can earn 6 figures in tech in 5 days without doing anything and doing no work, guaranteed or your money back. And I'm like, my brother, come and teach me that because it sounds good in promotions, but honestly, there is a level of work involved, a level of practice in class. We spend time, we go in depth into learning all of the skills. Anybody can learn them, but it requires a level of effort. So the technical skills are the foundation for becoming a database administrator, like having a level of proficiency. Are they difficult to learn? No. Can anybody learn it? Yes. But is it something you spend 2 hours and then you're done? No, you're going to spend it's putting in work and practice. The next one is analytical skills. We're always dealing with issues in terms of troubleshooting problems that are coming up, whether it's with the data, with the database servers. And there is always more than one way to handle an issue, right? We need to be able to look at a problem. A key part of our day-to-day, like a day in the life of a database administrator, is looking at problems. It's solving problems, it's troubleshooting issues. In fact, we have one of the key roles as a database administrator, you have is a production support. So if you go on LinkedIn right now and look for production support DBA, right? Most job titles, most database administrator titles are production support. What that means is we are literally staying and every day we are monitoring activity on the database, right? That means somebody does a transaction, somebody makes a payment. We are tracking all of those things. We are monitoring them on the dashboard, right? We are sitting and that's why some people can do multiple gigs, because if things are set up properly, you shouldn't have things breaking all the time. And so all you're doing is keeping an eye out on stuff so that in case something goes on, You're there to investigate, figure out the root cause, resolve the issue in good environments, document the your process, so that if it ever comes up again, now you have a standard process to resolving this issue, right? You've done a thorough root cause analysis and you document the process. That's a typical, for most database administrators, that is what we do. Is issues arise, what's the root cause of the issue? Find a solution to it, document the solution, rinse and repeat, right? And so now, by the time you spend a little bit of time in a place, you start realizing it's routine, so issues that you're dealing with. But where I'm going is analytical skills become very essential because you can't have just one way of looking at a problem. There might be multiple ways. There might be more efficient ways to solve an issue. There might be more efficient ways to solve an issue that you have access to, but you're not going to. One of the ways you don't grow as a DBA is by leaning into this is how it's done, or this is how I do it, or this is how it's always been done. No, even the technology is changing and evolving. Some of those common issues, Microsoft in newer versions or in newer features, and not just Microsoft, I'm using Microsoft as an example because that's my own area. But any of these platforms, they will build in solutions to common issues, right? And so you can't keep recycling a solution that Microsoft has solved in the future update or in the future, release, right? And so it's important to have that open mind, be analytical, look at problems and say, hey, what are other ways we can solve this problem? The other skill I have here is, communication skills. This is so huge. Yes, we're going to get recordings. If you registered, since you registered and you're here, you're going to get a replay of the whole session. So communication is so huge, and I'm talking about both written communication, verbal communication. Being able to speak clearly in meetings is a super skill people don't realize. It's not about just sitting down and again, are we always in meetings? No, yeah, but that once a week where you do your weekly team meeting, being able to communicate, this are my updates, right? This is what I'm working on. This is where things are. Being in those project meetings, or maybe there's an outage at work. There is something happens, there's a fire, we call them, we jump on a bridge, that's what we call it. A bridge is just a conference call, and then we're troubleshooting, the application is down. Being able to be on the call and say, hey, you know what, I'm looking at the database and I'm looking at this is what I'm saying and this is what I'm saying, and there are no issues, or this is the issue I'm seeing. Being able to fluently communicate what's going on within the database infrastructure is a super skill, right? A lot of times as database administrators, because what we deal with cuts across all aspects of the business, we will be interacting with people who might not necessarily be able to speak SQL, who might not be able to speak tech. And so being able to communicate with those people and it makes sense to them is a super skill. It will take you further than your ability to do the technical work sometimes. I promise you. Think about when you start interviewing for positions. 99.9%, and I'm not saying 100% because there might be a chance that this is not the case. But 99% of the time, when you go for your interviews, you are having a conversation. It's going to be a conversation. So who can clearly convey their thoughts? Who can clearly break down concepts? Communication is so powerful. Being able to communicate within the context of a team. You're going to be working in teams where everybody is not a database administrator, right? The company is deploying a new software to solve a problem. And so they have their project managers and scrum masters and product owners, all of those people. They have the reporting analysts, they have the developers, they have the business folks, they have you as the database expert. So being able to engage effectively within a team, communicate with all of these people. We have the server administrators, network engineers, cybersecurity analysts. You have all of these guys in one room working on one project. So teamwork, collaboration, communication, these soft skills are so powerful. Again, I did a workshop before. Go on YouTube and look for some of these things. I have a lot of resources I put out just addressing some of these things. What are the core non-technical skills that you need to be successful as a database administrator? That's a good resource for anybody. So now that you know what it involves, where can we work? Everywhere, like I said before. Think of any business. Give me a business in the chat. Just look for an organization or an industry. Give me one industry in the chat. Let's see how it relates to data. I'm doing this to make sure you're all engaged. Just mention any industry. Walmart. So Walmart falls under retail, right? Walmart is retail. What do we do? What does Walmart need? We need to know inventory. That's data. We need to know how many, we need to track inventory. We need to track sales, right? And so when somebody makes a purchase, records need to be updated and inventory needs to be deducted. When there's a new stock that is, replenished, it needs to be updated that, hey, we have new stock, and so our inventory needs to be updated. So in the end, even though I'm going to Walmart and I'm picking up items and things, for my groceries or whatever, right? It's still a data business. Imagine if that data is compromised and somebody goes and deletes all of the data Walmart has at the back end. And so now Walmart doesn't know how many toothpaste they have. They don't know how many any of the computer, let's say they have their technology section. There's no record for how many of those things are. What will happen? People will steal and you won't know, right? Because now you can't track, you can't track what's what, inventory. You can't track that anymore. You can't. How are people able to say, hey, you know what? I saw a commercial recently. I think not a commercial, but one of these clips online. And they talked about how Walmart is trying to reduce the amount of self-checkout lines because they are noticing the increase of theft. How are they able to track that? I'm pretty sure if they were catching the people physically, it would be they're not necessarily catching people. What they're seeing is the numbers are not adding up, right? Things are inventory is reducing and the money is not balancing. And so they are judging that based on this disparity in income to inventory, people are stealing, right? So that is a data decision. That's a decision they reach purely on data. And guess what they did? Based on that data, we're going to start reducing the amount of self-checkouts. Let's drive people back to go and check out with human beings, right? Because now you can't, I'm going to see what you have, right? So we can do this for every industry. You go to the medical industry, doctors, hospitals. Yes, their product is healthcare, right? People that their product is healthcare, their product is going, you're sick, you go there, you get well, or they treat you, give you medication. That's what they do. But at the core of that is still data. Have you ever been to the doctor and in your conversation with them, they are, they begin to look at, they go in and start typing in stuff in the computer at the back end of doctors as medical, call it electronic medical records, right? Some of you might be in healthcare, you're familiar with that. They type in the symptoms and it literally tells them this is likely what's going on. It's not them from their head, right? They're able to interpret the data that the system gives them with their training. But the diagnosis they give you a lot of the time is a product of inputs into a database that gives them an output and they tell you, hey, based on your symptoms, this is what's going on with you, right? And so they are using data to treat us. Again, when they make a diagnosis and they recommend this test, what do? They store this information somewhere. Have you gone from one hospital and you go to another provider, maybe due to they refer you somewhere else? And then they are looking at your files and they start talking to you about, and this is your first time in this hospital, and they're telling you about the medications you've been taking. They're like, hey, just to verify, are you taking this and this and that? Are you still on this? Are you still on that? And you're wondering, that was 8 years ago. How do you have that in your information? It's in a database. It's stored somewhere because they want to make sure it's, if that data is compromised, you can be mistreated. Or you can be, I guess, whatever word it is now in medicine, right? You can be misdiagnosed. You can, that historical data, if it's not available to the doctors, mistakes can be made, costly mistakes that can cost life. And so in every ramification of our, in terms of our lives, data is key. So where can we work? Everywhere. I've seen students in the past work in, someone, reached out to me one time. They're looking for, somebody called them from Wayne Farms. Wayne Farms, they do chicken. They're the ones that supply chicken from Chick-fil-A, right? Incredible. And they need DBAs. I wonder, what are you doing there? There's another landscaping company in Alpharetta that Site One hired one of my students. I'm like, mind blown. Landscaping company. What are we talking about? Right. So so people think, it's a tech skill, it's a tech career. Yes, but you don't have to work in tech. You don't have to work in tech industries. Every business is driven by data. I had students from students who got interviewed at Rollins. Rollins does, spray for killing insects and all of bug spray and all of those things. Like I've seen every industry. I can give you just a ton of places where people work that we've trained. Whereas these like strange companies that you never think about when you're thinking, okay, where your career will go. Healthcare is a big employer for us. Retail, finance, all manner. It's a very the range of opportunities is wide. Like if you go again, I urge everyone go on this Department of Labor's website and check out the opportunity, just how many DBAs were employed last year. It will blow your mind. You wonder why there's not, bigger hype around this career path. So where can work everywhere. It's not an industry specific role. Every organization uses data, and so it makes us what we do so important and super relevant. How much do we make? Again, Department of Labor, the average is $101,000. So it's well paid. Again, it's right there around, a little over six figures. And this on average. You negotiate well, you do better. There are people who are doing easily right out of the gates. Most of my students start around the 105 to 110 mark. People who are doing hourly rate are getting upwards of $55 an hour. So it pays well. And the data proves it. I put a screenshot to kind of show range, in terms of, where I'm getting these numbers from. Again, this is on Department of Labor's website, so it's not made up. And I put some job postings. This is Dice. Dice is one of my preferred. Can we get started on a remote job? Absolutely. Remote jobs are the same thing as every DBA job you do is remote, whether you're going into an office or not. You have to think about it like that. It really is, because again, you're not necessarily going into the data center. Half of the companies you will work for, the data center is not in the building. They're either outsourcing their data center. If you're in Atlanta, your data center is probably in QTS, or some other, remote site. So you're technically always remote. So where that's why it's easy for us to, when we're on call, you don't need to, it's not a big deal when you're called to work from home. You work late, you work after hours, you're doing fine. So you can say, hey, I'm not coming in today because I worked at 2 a.m. So it doesn't change, remote or in person doesn't change the, conversation for us really. So again, just a few examples of DB positions, and I have this screenshot of just places where past alumni are working, trying to show the diversity. Oldcastle, Chase Bank, Oldcastle is manufacturing. Again, very interesting companies that hire, and this is a very small sample size. These are mostly local companies. Well, not local, but they have presence in Atlanta here. But these are the ones we could throw together quickly where past students work, have received employment. And in terms of just future framing, right? This is one of those career paths that will continue to grow, right? According to the same Department of Labor, the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And the reason I keep referencing the Bureau of Labor Statistics is because they are the one, legitimate organization they are tasked with keeping track of the statistics. That's the official place to track all of this information and stats. So it's always good to check out, even if your own, where you are right now, check out what the trends are in your own field. But there's job stability. It's not one of the just learn a software. Like if you recall, there was a few years ago, there was a rave on Epic, right? Everybody wanted to learn Epic because you could learn it, go do some contracts, get some quick money. And after a while, it closed. There's been other fields like that had their rave, people jumped in and they made some money, and now they're back to. That's not the case with database people. Because of the dependence of organizations on data, there will always be opportunities in the database field, right? You're going to have, if you are proficient at what you do, you'll always have a job. Even if you move companies because maybe you want to move around, in the end, it's always recommended to move around, test the market after a couple of years, see if you can get more money. A lot of times you get more money by moving than you would within your company. So moving is not the, but in terms of stability, and there will always be opportunity, right? There will always be job opportunities. If you're proficient, you'll always have a job. The DBA role is projected to keep growing, 9% higher than average. So in terms of whether this will be around, is this a good career path to venture into? Yes. Again, you have to do what you have to do. You have to do the work. I really get disgusted with people who come online and sell. I'll show you how I made $1 million in 2 days. I'm like, come on, man. Like, I'm not saying it's impossible, but tell the truth. At least tell the truth that there's going to be work involved. Um, Everything of value is going to come at a level of cost and effort. And so with this one, it's not impossible, it's not difficult, but it does involve putting in the work. Um, what are some entry requirements? Minimum high school diploma is our requirement, because that's what they would check for. They don't necessarily check for your school in terms of on the job when you start applying. Maybe when you fill out the application, they will ask you for your highest level of education. But most interviews, your resume, recruiters reach out to you, you have your interviews, and that's it, right? And so a lot of times, this is not even education doesn't even come up in the conversation when it comes to the hiring process. But we do require that because state requirements. We want to be able to show that hey, you're going to be able to get a job. High school diploma is our minimum requirement. But the higher you go, the better, right? If you have a PhD, sure. The next, like I said before, is you have to be proficient in at least one of the database technologies. You have to be good at Oracle, you have to be good at SQL, you have to be good at MySQL. You pick a path. Microsoft SQL Server is what we teach. And we have a cohort going on. I'll talk about that in a little bit. We just opened up a cohort and we're still accepting people into it. But become proficient in one, and that's how you go on and become successful. That's how you're able to hire, that's how you're able to help businesses with your skill as a database administrator. And I put here experience to spirit certification. Certifications are good, but they don't ever come up in interviews. Like I've done a ton of it as a candidate and as somebody interviewing other people, and it's never a conversation. Reason is anybody can get certified. The objective of certifications is for career growth, right? You see, certifications are always evolving, they're always changing. As technology evolves, certifications evolve as well to keep up with everything they've done. So it's a way to show that you're keeping up with the technology. People always mistake it and they want to learn the latest and greatest and get higher certified. And honestly, certification is just an evidence of your ability to write and pass exams, right? You buy the right brain dorms and study for 2 weeks, you will pass about any certification exam. And the people inside know this. So I always tell my students, reserve certifications for when you get in the job and you want to use that as leverage to show that you're growing, right? So when it's time to negotiate for your annual raises, you want to get that performance appraisal scores high. Certification is a good way to, do that, right? It's a good way to stay in touch with, especially when you're in a job where they are not forward thinking with technology. There are some companies that are still on the older versions, 10 years ago versions of SQL, for example. How do I people tend to be challenged with, okay, how do I keep up with the trends? How do I keep up with what's going on today within the technology? How do I keep up? And best way to do it is certifications, right? That's a good way to at least that you're on top of what the changes are within the industry and all of that good stuff. But it's not a pointer to your ability to do the job. And so what people are looking for is, are you proficient in the technology? Have you dealt with issues? How do I prove that? It's by practice, right? And that's why, like in class, we're building a lot of practice, hours of practice. I always tell people, consider this your experience like flight hours. For the pilot, it's not about how long you've flown, it's about how many hours you've been in the air. Right? It's not about how many years of experience. Okay, I've been a pilot for the last 20 years. What's your flight hours? You can build your flight hours. You control that by the amount of time you put in practice, spending time on your virtual labs and all of that good stuff. That's what you do. That's how you build experience. And that's more important than certification. And I put the experience and obtain through lab hours. In terms of your computer skills, I don't need you to be writing code already or doing anything crazy to be able to get in. But I do need you to be comfortable on your computer, right? Be comfortable navigating, doing the fundamentals on your computer, which most people are. But if you're still struggling to type with both hands and things like that, maybe that's where we'll start from. So what are the steps to land the job quickly? One, become proficient in one of the technologies. I've said that. Build an excellent resume. That's something we help our students with. We spend plenty of time really on the job search process. An excellent resume is the first step. Optimize your online presence. Again, list things that are dangerous that I'm sharing with you because you can do them today and So Fad, you're asking for how to get to remote jobs. This is how you optimize your resume to look like you're somebody who's experienced working remote. That's really your resume, how you set up your resume and your online presence is going to determine what you attract. So if you show that you've done a lot of work and you've done a lot of work from home type work, companies that are looking for people who have that experience will find you. And then you just go find them yourself as well. Again, set up your profiles on the appropriate job sites. I put some examples for us there. Apply consistently. People apply for 2 days and they stop, and then they come whine to me and tell me now, there's no jobs. There are, you're just not applying all the time. We have to apply. You have to apply every day. You have to apply consistently. I tell my students a target of a specific amount of jobs. So give yourself, because some of them will require doing the same thing over and over again. It can be tedious and tasking. And so give yourself a target, a daily target. I'm going to apply to 10 jobs today. I'm not talking about recruiter calls that are calling out of nowhere. No, that doesn't account as application. You going in and painfully filling out all those questions and uploading your resume, that's application. Applying consistently, and then I put them in prompt to responding to recruiter calls. People get this call, they don't pick, they don't return the calls, they don't return their voicemails. Respond to calls, respond to emails, you see a lot of recruiters reach out to you on LinkedIn. When you have your LinkedIn optimized and set up, be prompt to respond to recruiters on LinkedIn so that, again, they are not only talking to you, right? They are talking to other people. These recruiters are not loyal. They don't owe you any obligation. They will move on to the next person if you're not responsive. So be prompt to respond. You're competing with other people who are also looking for work. Interview often. So once you build your proficiency with speaking to recruiters, navigating that conversation, it will lead to interviews. You have a good resume, you're applying consistently, recruiters will call you. Recruiters are calling you and you navigate those conversations well, you get interviews. Interview often, don't limit yourself. People start putting terms and conditions around interviews. Doesn't make sense to me. It is better you interview for a job and then reject it than reject an interview when you're not in the system already, when you're not a database administrator already. Right? It's so important that we hear this. Let's say all of us are based in Atlanta, for example. I'm assuming, right? And nothing will make you leave Atlanta for now because you have things going on. It doesn't mean you shouldn't interview for jobs in Texas, or in fact, at this stage, you want to entertain a lot of those out-of-state jobs that you're not going for. Because what would that be? That would be practice interviews for you. So that the day your dream job in Atlanta is going to call you, you've done enough practice, you've prepared enough, right? So interview often to keep sharpening your interview skills. Network, like you all are here, it's a time to connect, it's excellent. Network often, network all the time. Network. Attend career events, we have these meetups, come out for them. It's super important that we do that. So we've covered who a database administrator is, our job, what we do, the opportunities. We've looked at the requirements to get in, rules and responsibilities, and the steps. I've just gone over the steps, right? So, our options. How do I get in? You can look for IT roles in your current organization. So, you work in tech right now, not just in tech, you work in any organization. You can start looking for a way to start shadowing them in their IT department. I've kind of mentored people to do this approach. It's just a longer approach because you don't have full control of the outcome, and your managers have to be in alignment with that. Some companies have a good infrastructure in place for career transition, right? You talk to HR and let them know your goals, and then they will, start looking for ways to get you to shadow or match. If you have that opportunity, take advantage of it. That's a good place to start in terms of trying to how to get a job. You can go get a degree, right? I'm beginning to see, before, when I first got in the game, 12, 13 years ago, when we first started, there wasn't too many there wasn't any, I didn't see any career options that had like a database concentration. Now there are. I've seen master's degrees that have, database concentration, even, secondary, as what I call the minors, that are in database administration concentration. So going back to school is an option now. It's just an expensive option. It's a longer, more expensive option, but it is a valid option. If you are always going to go back to school, regardless, and you want to go into IT and you want to explore database administration or a database career, you do have that option now. You can go the online course route. That's also the cheaper you get to, but you get to navigate the journey by yourself. And last option is what we offer, career training programs. It's a faster route, significantly lower investment than going back to school, and higher guarantee because you're not by yourself, right? You're getting someone like myself helping you navigate the journey. You also get a community around you. And if we don't mind, let me take the next few minutes to talk about our program, and then I'll take questions. If you have any questions, put them in the chat, and I will answer all of them. I'll stay on as long as we need to answer as many questions as I can, and I will jump right in. So we have our database certificate program. Again, I mentioned we are authorized by the state of Georgia. Our program is designed to help you become or land a SQL Server job in 8 to 10 weeks without breaking the bank, go back to school for another degree. Or we'll continue working with you until you do. In fact, we built out the new program called our Support and Employ program. And that's for our students. Just you finish the program, you're interviewing. We are meeting every week until you get a job or until you get tired of seeing our face. Even after you get a job, you want to still keep coming with them. Our program is based on 3 core pillars. The first pillar is our tech mastery phase. That is where we take a deep dive into the technical aspects of the program. We teach you Microsoft SQL, that's our area. You will become proficient at the technology. You're going to do so much projects and practice. You will build your own portfolio, basically. And then the next is our career launch framework. So from resume writing to speaking to recruiters, we're working with you in this framework to make sure your resume is set up properly. And we'll keep making tweaks, right? If we're not getting the feedback we need, we'll keep tweaking it. Again, we're working with you until you get a job. We'll keep adjusting and tweaking until you start getting the calls. We will have targets that we're working towards. And then the next phase is your interview and hire, the recruiting and hiring funnel, what we're going to interviewing, how to efficiently interview, what to expect, how to prepare, all of that good stuff. And again, even beyond the scheduled class framework, you have an interview coming up. Because we're meeting every week, we are there to help you prepare. So you're sending a job description, we can go over it, anticipate questions, prepare for that interview, so you can go and greatly enhance your chances of success. Right. So this is what is included. We meet weekly. Right now, we meet over weekends, Saturday and Sunday, twice a week. Virtual mentoring sessions. We have to meet online. If you really want to come in and see my face, you can come into the office. That's also fine. We'll have a training facility, but we do it mostly virtual. You have access to recordings. So we stream to YouTube. So as long as YouTube is still up, you will have access to recordings. After the class, I send a playlist of all of the videos. And so you have that forever. We get to have, again, mentorship sessions, one-on-ones, questions. And if you have questions, we'll keep providing support on demand. I always tell my students, post your questions anytime. I might not respond immediately, but we'll answer it. Right? And I have, a couple of people that work with me that help me as well to ensure that no questions are left unanswered and people are getting responses, answers quickly outside of class. And of course, we're working with you through the job search process. We're guiding you and mentoring you through that process. You have access to our private community and our support and employer program. Basically, we keep working with you until you graduate, until you get a job, brother. What else you're getting? We're authorized by MPEC. MPEC is the national, authorization agency for post-secondary education. A lot of people offer training and they are not authorized to do so. We are one of the people that are authorized. We are a school, right? We're building because we are going towards even offering degree programs down the road. And so we're trying to maintain our credibility. What that means is we are held accountable by the state. So that should give you peace of mind. I'm the one teaching the database program. I feel like I'm the best in the game. You won't find a better trainer than me. Go check, look me up, Google me. All right, small flex. What I'm doing, I think I'm doing all right. All of our training is hands-on. Every project that I give you is from real-world experience. I just mentioned I've been in this for 2012 to 2014. So 12 years, thereabouts. Doing this as my primary hustle. So, but as a trainer and as a consultant, a DBA, and so I know what I'm talking about, and I've done this, for a bit. The learning options are flexible, schedule-wise, it works for most people. All of the tools and software you need are provided, so you won't need to buy anything else. Once you pay your tuition, we'll provide all of the tools and software you need. You will provide your own laptop. We used to do a promotion for free laptop. That promotion has finished. We're working with you to get a job, help you with prepare for your interviews. You have access to our resume vault to prepare your resumes. We have a dedicated team supporting you through the journey, and you get a certificate of completion to showcase your skills to employers. Again, like I said, we are state authorized, so our certificates actually, you can transfer credits. If you do go back to school and you want to take your credit for the things you've learned, it's you can. So, time to take the guesswork out of your career change journey. You don't need to be guessing anymore. There's too many. You can tell I have beef with people that just make up stuff online to collect money from people. um, I want to see how people win. Let me just skip all the gist here. I want to see, most of the students who come to me are people from, the Black community, African immigrant community, and that's what my passion is. I want us to take our place in, in the world of tech, in the tech world, and so that's why I do this. It's easy to go get a job, do multiple jobs, and pack money if that's the focus, but there's no impact there. And for me, I want to see more of us. Doing well. And this is the one skill I've mastered in terms of technology, and I'm giving out them. I'm trying to use that to drag as many people along as possible. All right, so I have some reviews. Again, check us out on Google and on Facebook. We have a bunch of reviews online. What people say about us, who have gone to our programs. We've had a lot of success with our students, so a little bit of credibility on the streets there. 80% of our program completers go on to become successful, land jobs, and it's even up now. So it's the process works. We've built a system that works. So again, this is all you're getting. Not going to go over that. So you have two choices. You can start today. Fortunately, we do have a class that just started this week. And so you can still jump in if you would like to. But just don't wish for this. Don't just sit through don't hang out on the fence. The opportunity is there. I will help you become a database administrator. I want to help you accomplish your goals. But you have to move quickly. After this week, once we get past this week, of once we're two weeks into the class, by the third week, I won't take any more students. So you really have just this weekend to make a decision to join the group that's just started. But don't just sit and do nothing. Yes, I'm going to keep doing my workshops because I enjoy doing them and sharing knowledge. But stop taking the free workshops and come on, get into the paid class. All right. In the next 3 to 6 months, we can get you into a job. You'll be done with training in 3 months, and typical time, after class, 1 to 3 months post class, people that are serious about it and are stay with it in that time frame are get jobs because we start applying for work, we start the job application process while we are still in class. And so we go, so a lot of times we have students doing interviews. The last class I finished, my Q1 class, one of the students already got a job, but Mr. John, he did like 2 interviews already while we were in class. Just received an offer recently. So it's the pace at which you get a job is how aggressive you are about it. Do you teach high availability, disaster recovery, load balancing? I am the best at teaching those things. Like HADR is my jam. We go in depth into those things. We build out your VMs. I work with you to set up your virtual machines, set up your network so that you can practice all of that. So what do you do next? I have a link on the screen again. I don't know if any of my people are online. Let me post the link to book a call for everyone who wants to have a chat. This is the link to do so. I have it in the chat, but you can stick it, screenshot of the barcode or the QR, it's the barcode, the QR code, and book a call, again, or just send us a message. If you're already speaking to somebody from my team, you're already talking to Rosie, hit her up and let her know we have payment options. We have ways to make the money work. We'll work with you to make it work. Just let us know. Reach out to us today. Get on our calendar. So at least I know you booked today, so that even if you don't start this weekend, let's have you down. That way I can make accommodations to get you caught up. But once we get past week 2, going on the third week, that will be it. So let's go ahead and book a call, and I'd love to help you again. Have all of these bonuses. This is for workshops. All right, so book a call. And what else? Let's take questions. Anybody have any questions? Again, all of the other things, I'll be glad to get on the call and break down. What time is it? We are a little over 3 minutes over the hour. So have any questions? I'll take you work with folks work with employers who upskill their employees. Not yet. Not yet. We work with the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. That's the only government agency we're affiliated with for now. We're looking to get on Google. Um, Amazon is very Amazon lets works with only people who are training for their programs because so that's the restriction there. But we're trying to get into we're trying to get in everywhere we can. We're trying to get into a government apprenticeship program so we can actually offer training through those programs. Um, which websites to get remote DBA jobs? The standard websites. My favorite websites, LinkedIn is still the best place to find any kind of work. Um, it has to be optimized, but monster.com is a great place. You can get a subscription on flexjobs.com. I found some good stuff there. Indeed is excellent. Indeed is excellent as well. So those are some platforms you can use to get jobs online. Uh, I'll take one more question. All right, again, please, here is the link to book a call. Copy that, take a screenshot of and we'll be glad to, and let me put what is our, if you need to speak to somebody today, you can send a text to this number, if I can find it. There we go. Where is my chat window? There we go. All right, so you can just call or text us on that number, and somebody will follow up with you promptly. If you're looking to move quickly, if you're already talking to us, hit Rosie back up, and she will let you know what next steps to take. But I hope I see everyone here in class soon. I'm not having a workshop next week, but I think I have another one first week of May. Next week is my birthday, so I'm taking the weekend off. Thank you everyone for spending some of your Friday afternoon. I'll let you go, but I'll see you in class. Talk soon.